everyone, this is Cyrus
And Amanda.
and welcome to the Gowns and Crowns podcast. So, Amanda, you and I did a podcast not long ago where we were kind of, in a positive way, talking about pet peeves.
Yes.
And it was super, super successful and it was very well received. I got lots of text messages, emails, people talking about pet peeves and kind of, what gets under their skin where pageants are concerned. Yep. So we decided to do a Pet Peeves 2. So I know that in our first one we covered a lot of ground, so I hope the ones that we have picked today, some of these are mine and Amanda's, but some of them did come from the text messages and the emails that I got. And I know that even your mom volunteered a pet peeve. Why don't we start with that one?
Okay,
Why don't we start with the one that your mom and dad kind of was a pet peeve coming from pageant parents?
Yes. So my parents were amazing in my pageant journey, very supportive. Just kind of stood back and watched everything happen. Thank goodness for you, because they had no clue what to do until we found you. But my mom was sharing with me that as a pageant parent, when she was sitting in the audience, there would be people close by in the audience very audibly talking about other contestants or talking about me. And she's thinking, do you not know that that's my daughter up there? Some of the things that you're saying right now are very not appropriate. So I think when you're sitting in your seats, it's okay to have your thoughts, but maybe write them down or speak about them afterwards, because it gets kind of quiet in there and you can definitely hear what people are saying. So,
or be very clear who you're sitting around,
Yes.
You're not in your living room, you're not in your game room, you're not in your man cave, or,
right.
Or where the kitchen. And I think as a society, we've gotten so used to being at home and streaming everything where we can just talk openly about it, that now when people actually get out in public,
they forget they're in public. Yes.
But like you said, the most important thing, is it's difficult when I think it'd be difficult. I've not been in the audience because I'm usually on the sidelines doing something, but I do hear a lot of parents talk about it. They'll come into class and they'll go, do you know what this woman said about my daughter?
Y'all.
And I was just like, I guess what we're saying is the pet peeve is just don't talk about people if you're sitting in the audience. Save it for when you get home.
Exactly. And it's okay to cheer for your favorite contestant, but maybe also to remember you're not at a sporting event.
Right.
You're at a pageant. You still want to keep it, still like somewhere between a golf clap and the happy marriage with a sporting event, but just not so.
Well, that brings up one of it's down the line, but I'll go ahead and bring it up now since you kind of touched on it. That's another pet peeve that a lot of people have. Mm-hmm. I guess I don't know how I really feel about it, is about people who yell and scream for their girls in the audience. I think on one hand, I've been to pageants where the MC has just said, hey, if you're going to clap, can we clap for everybody?
Right.
Or
hold your applause until the end.
Or be mindful of what you say. But, there's always that girl who comes out. I just remember the year you competed in Miss South Carolina, USA, and the girl who came out ahead of you to introduce herself, and the guy in the audience goes, I love you, baby. And I'm just like, I don't necessarily know if that is what I would have done. But again, you're not at a sporting event where it's okay to stand up and hoot and holler.
Right.
But you do get a lot of that when you get these girls who have enthusiastic family members.
And that's great. Bring your enthusiasm, but also to curb it just a little bit.
And you know what? Bring it for everybody.
Right.
I always tell everybody, a lot of these girls are on a journey and they don't have 30 friends to bring with them on this journey. So they come out on stage and they don't really have anybody to clap for them.
Right.
It doesn't mean the judges are paying attention to that, but everybody, I know I'm more motivated I love when people clap when I go by. But I think the more you get people to clap and, but I think if you make it the norm, clap for everybody. But,
I love that.
But also remember, you are at a pageant. I love the way you said it. It's not necessarily a sporting event, but that is a lot of people's pet peeve. The other thing is making signs too big. I think it's great to have signs. Now they have the things where you can put your contestant's head on a stick.
Yes.
And you can hold it up. And I think that's great, but it seems like the heads got bigger.
Let's just do a head, not a life-size head.
Let us life-size head. Because you got to remember, I bought a ticket also, and I shouldn't have to sit behind somebody who's blocking
your entire view
with their daughter's big head.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's a good one to touch on. Another one that somebody brought up, they asked me how I felt about the onstage question, and I think we're talking about the final onstage question when you
Yes.
get down to the top 5. And so the pet peeve comes from, it's basically, should all the girls be asked, should each contestant be asked a different question?
Or the same.
Or should they be asked the same question? The person who expressed this to me, and this one came to me in an email, they said, it bothers me when it's different questions because it seems like some contestants get an easier question than
Apples and oranges.
yeah.
Yes.
And they said it's just my pet peeve because it's not fair to say, oh, who's your biggest role model? And then ask another girl a political statistic that could just be random, something that the judge saw,
100%.
that, or that
Absolutely.
somebody saw in the news that not everybody may know about. So, and then I know you, and then the other option is where everybody gets the same question, and then you can judge the girls based on how each of them answered the same question.
Right. I like
You've always
that.
gotten a different question.
have.
I don't think
Yes.
you've ever been in a pageant where they asked you the same question, have you?
No.
What would you prefer as a contestant?
Hearing it being said out loud now, I like it when everyone gets asked the same question because I feel like it's on an equal playing field.
Yeah, if you're going to ask a hard question, then all 5 people get
the
asked
hard
that hard
question.
question. Or if they're
Yes.
going to ask an easy
It
question,
makes it fair.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So, all right, directors, like I said, we're not here to tell directors how to run their pageant, but just know that that's kind of something that girls do talk about is just, is it random? I also think when you're putting together these questions, I wonder sometimes who sits around and comes up with these questions because it seems like you have 4 questions that are basically easy to answer, and then you have one question. I call it Russian roulette.
Yes.
It's like they throw a question in there that it doesn't matter who gets it.
For the shock.
They're going to
value.
struggle with
Yes.
it. They're going to struggle.
Yes.
And I don't necessarily think that is fair either. And it's not like you're going on the computer and the computer picks 5 random questions for you. These are human beings who are
Picking these questions.
picking these questions. And sometimes I think they deliberately put a question in there knowing that someone's going to choke on. But so the pet peeve is the same question versus the different question. Amanda and I have agreed today that it's kind of our pet peeve when you get a different question because I don't think everybody gets the same value
Right.
of a question. Let's see, what else do we have? Final ballot versus high score. A lot of people do not understand in the pageant world, when we play football, we play basketball, high score wins.
Right.
The team at the end of the night with the highest score is going to win. In pageantry, it can go one of 2 ways. High score means that if you've competed for 5 days and you have the high score, you're going to win, which I personally kind of like. Final ballot is when they get you to the top 5, everybody's score
It's erased.
goes back to 0.
Right.
Yes, you've been in that. That's the way
Yes.
USA, I think, was
Yes.
run. So when you get to the top 5, you literally could have been the high score for 4 days and end up 4th runner-up because it comes down to a final ballot. So the girls are back at 0, and then the judges have to rescore at the very end of the pageant. And they're supposed to kind of look at the overall performance of the girl, but it's amazing to me sometimes. I was at a pageant a few years back where there was a young lady who won everything. She won everything in her group at preliminaries. When it came time to give the overall awards on finals night, this girl's literally standing there with everything, and she got 2nd runner-up. And I was just like, it doesn't, even though we know you're going to final ballot and there's a chance that that's going to happen, I don't really understand how a judges panel can carry a girl that far. As a judges panel, you've given this young lady everything just to leave her standing.
Unless it's a separate panel, because sometimes with pageants, they do bring in
Yep.
a totally separate panel of judges who have not talked to you in person. All they're seeing is you on that final
The
night.
aesthetic.
Right. And that's where that's out of your control.
No, I understand that. The pageant I'm talking about, though, was the
They
same.
had the same
thing,
ones
but
the
yeah.
entire time.
Yes.
And that's where I would hope that the judges would say, okay, maybe there's something just a tiny bit off tonight, but she's done so great so far. I've had her at the forefront of my mind. You would hope that they would remember everything, the culmination of everything over the past however many days that they've seen her. You would hope that they would remember that. But
So the pet peeve is, is it your pet peeve that you're competing in a finals ballot pageant, or are you competing in high score? I don't know. I guess being a sports fan, I just high score wins because it's easy to justify. If somebody's got the highest score,
Deny that.
you can't deny it.
Right.
But when you've got a girl who has the high score and they end up third runner up, and if the judge, and like I said, at the end of the day, it's up to the judges, especially in the pageants we're talking about. They're picking a girl that's going to go to the next level.
Right.
So hopefully, the whole time you're looking for that girl, but it's just kind of amazing that you've picked this girl, and then at the last minute you went, oh, but I think it's her. So that's where the pet peeve comes in.
Yes.
It's like it just doesn't necessarily make sense.
sense.
All right, what else you got over there?
So the pageants that require kids that aren't old enough to have social media,
Yes.
that's me being a mom. I do have a fresh teenager right now, and he is old enough to have social media, which is crazy to me. But
She's struggling with that.
I am
In case
still
you
struggling
guys
with that.
don't know, she's been struggling with that one becoming
have.
a teenager.
And I want to think that Brian, my husband, and I have prepared him enough to be able to handle that. But at the same time, I know that there's still a lot of growth to be had there. So I feel like as a mom, I can help promote him. And the same thing with the pageant moms, the dads, the directors. I feel like when it's a child, that's their responsibility to say, well, I can have a fan page for you because I control it. I control who is a part of it. I control what goes out there. But I don't think it should be something that is required because you're asking a child to do something that's an adult position.
I'll go a step, I appreciate where you're coming from, but I'll go a step further. 13 years old is where they're saying you're allowed to have social media. Under that, it shouldn't be a fan page or anything. Your 9-year-old shouldn't be out there on social media.
Right.
But there are pageants out there now that require you to post every day, post every day, post every day, post every day. And it does put the responsibility on the moms to have to do this. And I mean, y'all, we went for years having pageant winners who were successfully promoted without having social media.
And they're present. I mean, when you get so wrapped up in that, they want you to do that every single day. Are you really present in what you're doing?
Yeah. It's just, it is a pet peeve because I have girls who participate in pageants and their moms are struggling with like, well, the director says we have to post every day. And I'm like, well, unless they're giving you a score for it somewhere.
Right.
Now, what I do believe is, I think going into the pageant, if you're under a certain, if you're not old enough to be on social media, they should not require you to be on social media.
Exactly.
But if you go to their pageant and you win, and they want to provide you with a fan page that they control,
Wonderful.
then you submit the photos, you submit the things, and they put it on there.
I love that even better.
But, I'm like you, I struggle. I don't have kids of my own, but I see the moms who come in who are struggling because they're like, oh, well, we've been told if she goes to nationals, she doesn't stand a chance if she doesn't post on if we don't post on social media. And I get that. And that kind of brings me to the next pet peeve. If you're old enough to be on social media and you should be promoting, I think pageants are too loosey-goosey. Either give it a numerical score or move on. Because what I don't like are these pageants that browbeat. And yes, I will use browbeat because I have clients that are browbeat with every day it's an email. You're not posting, you're not posting, you're not posting. And then you go to nationals and they crown the one girl that never posted anything for her entire...
Or did anything to promote.
To promote the pageant. Yet you constantly kept telling these girls, you have to do this, you have to do this. Okay, well, if I have to do it, everybody should have to do it. And there should be a way that you as a director are holding them accountable.
Put it into the score. There's a pageant that I judged several years back, and that was part of it. They were required to do some videos and get some videos of community service.
And that's
have a video
okay.
about them.
That is okay.
That was judged. The director said, I want my queen to be active and help spread the news and help promote this pageant. Please look at these videos. That was part of our judging. That's great because the judges are aware and the girls are aware. They're, again, equal playing field.
Right. But if you're going to tell girls they have to do it, then somebody needs to hold that accountable. Don't tell a girl. I know I keep beating in the ground, but there was just a pageant not long ago where the girl who won never promoted the pageant. I didn't know that because I didn't really know the girl who won, but all the girls that we had went there were very clear to point out that they were required to do all, and they felt required to do it. Yet when they got to the actual pageant, it didn't really seem important.
Requirement.
So either make it a requirement or not a requirement, but don't be this loosey-goosey, and then the judges don't know.
Right.
The judges don't know what they're responsible for. Let's see what else
Well, going back to social media, about being careful about what you do post.
Oh, yeah.
Out there. So a lot of times I've seen some girls post some things after they didn't win that were amazing. And then I've seen some girls who have posted some things that were, like you said before, the tiny violin. And
Yes.
It is what it is. Just be mindful about what you post, and I will leave it at that and let you take the floor from there.
Well, I don't know, because I'll say, girl, give me a microphone. I'll say it louder. I love a girl going up to a pageant and they go into it. It was like, and I hate to say it, and this is not to knock anybody, but I know a lot of people out there are going to understand. They're all about, the Lord has led me on this journey. And then they don't win, and the very next day is, God has a better plan for me. I'm like, girl, that was 4 judges. That was not...
And I can speak from a contestant point of view with this, because I would tell my parents, I want this so bad, I want this so bad, I want this so bad.
I always love what your mom used to say.
My mom has always said, we're going to pray for what's best, because we don't know what that is. So that helped me get through. So if there were times that I didn't win, even though that was hard, it's still, the hindsight was 20/20. Maybe there was a reason for this and for that. And, we prayed for what was best to happen. And
I've competed in things myself. It wasn't pageants, but I've competed in things that I didn't win, and I was disappointed. But one point that is a pet peeve of mine, I don't like when girls do not win, and then they want to use social media to voice their dislike for
the pageant.
the pageant or the girl who won. Just say nothing.
That's
it is okay
not
to be
good.
Disappointed.
Don't burn any bridges, please.
Yeah. Like I said, it all comes down, we've said it before, it all comes down to basically 4 or 5 people's opinion of you.
Bring in 4 or 5 different people the next night, totally different outcome.
Oh, 100%. And
Yes.
like you said, sometimes you just have to compete. Like when you went to, I always like to use USA, because when you competed in interview and preliminaries, it was one set of judges. And then all those judges went away, and you had a completely different panel.
Celebrity panel of judges, never met them before, never spoken to them before. First time they heard me speak was when I made
When you spoke on
top
stage.
5, yes.
Yeah, so they didn't know. But I do think you carried your original score with you until you got to the 15.
Yes.
Then
Yes.
you started over. But yeah, I think girls need to be, you're right. If you're going to use social media, you don't have, the whole point is you don't have to say anything.
No, and it's okay to be disappointed.
Yeah.
100%.
I would rather a girl go on social media and go, I am so disappointed I didn't win that pageant last
But
night.
grateful for the experience and the ways that I've grown. Can't wait to.
But I don't
whatever
like when
to
a
do
girl
next.
goes on there and they knock the pageant, or they knock the girl who won, or they knock the girls who, because that's not good sportsmanship at
No,
all.
and you never know who's going to see that. And if you want to do that pageant again,
Well, y'all, and it's not necessarily just the girls. Sometimes it's the moms.
it can be worse than the girls sometimes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like I said, it's hard not to lash out for your kid,
Oh, I trust me, I know.
Let's see. Okay. This one came to me in a text message. Somebody mentioned to me in person, and I think there'll be mixed reviews over it, but this is a personal pet peeve of mine. Girls, I feel like, have tried to turn their crowning moment into a TikTok skit. And I call it the crazy crowning moment. The let me drop to my knees, let me lay on the floor, let me roll all over the place, let me run my hands all through my hair. I'm like, girl, stand there and let somebody crown you and put a banner on you.
Not a soapy, campy.
Yeah, it's like they turn it in this big, overly dramatic moment. And I'm like, well, first of all, it was something you entered. It was something you worked for. One of my friends told me, they said, girls need to act like it's not their first time in the end zone. Because what it
Act like
does,
you've been there before.
yes, it's great to be excited. But the thing is, you should have expected on some level to be there.
Yes.
Because you work for it.
absolutely.
It isn't like you're walking through Walmart and somebody came up and going, "Hi, I'm going to give you a check for $10 million." Girl,
Then,
I would,
okay, I would be.
I would
girl,
lay down
I would
in
act like I
Walmart,
have not
girl.
been there before.
I would lay right
Yes.
down on the floor for $10
would
million
join you.
because that's unexpected.
Right.
But when you act overly dramatic and you act, one, I think it gives people on the outside, once again, it's like, see, this is why I don't like pageants. That's all
Yes.
fake.
Right.
It's great to be, just like it's okay to be disappointed.
Sure.
But it's not okay to voice your opinion, a negative opinion in
Mm-hmm,
public. I think it's great to be excited, but don't be so overly dramatic and flailing around that they A, can't crown you, B, they're on a limited time schedule to do that, that you're ruining your
crowning moment,
You're ruining
right.
your crowning moment.
And then the photographer's just getting pictures of you with.
Ruining your crowning
Side of your
moment.
head or-
And then we have to look at the same crowning moment because it goes semi-viral. It doesn't
Right.
even go, viral.
Yes.
But it goes semi-viral and we have to look at it and all I do is shake my head and I'm go, that's really just not what pageants are about.
No.
All right. So that's some more of our pet peeves. I know next season we'll probably bring back more. If you have a
Yes.
pet peeve, you can always put it in the
Drop it
comments.
down. I would love to hear.
Yeah, I would too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Keep
So,
rolling in.
all right. This is Cyrus.
And Amanda,
And what do we always say?
it's a world of beauty and a universe of possibilities.
We'll see you guys next time.